It's this.
So, Sam, obviously, like all our readers, I spend most of my days thinking about moral money.
Yes.
And there I was sitting at my computer and I thought, why not ask Google what it has to say?
Oh, okay.
So I thought I'd just show you this.
Right.
We're going to type in, is it moral to? Have a little look. What do you think? Does anything jump out at you?
I'll read out. So these are the suggestions that Google is suggesting that we search. Is it moral to, number 1, eat meat? We've got kill insects, have a child, profit from a crime and a trial.
Keep going.
Okay, we've got break a promise. That's okay, fair enough, yeah. Hypnotise someone? How often does that come up?
Isn't that what this podcast is all about?
I've been hypnotised the entire time.
No, keep going.
Keep going. Is it moral to lie? Finally we get to it. Is it moral to be rich?
So you think that's quite interesting? Okay, if we type it in slightly differently,
Okay.
I'm going to type in, is it immoral to?
Okay. Right at the top, is it immoral to be a billionaire?
Whatever you type in, something with money comes near the top of the list. Is it unethical to be a billionaire?
Yeah.
Right up there in the top 10. Is it unethical to have a child? That's something that comes up quite often in this podcast about parenting and the effects of it.
It is, yeah.
Just goes to show, doesn't it, that money is at the heart of so much that we question about morality.
I thought you were going to go for a real cliche there. I thought you were going to go, it makes the world go round.
It makes the moral world go round.
I'm Sam Meadows, a personal finance reporter at The Telegraph.
And I'm Lauren Davidson, Head of Personal Finance.
And this is Moral Money, the show where we draft in The Telegraph's top columnists to referee your financial disputes, from flatmates who don't pay their way to children who think their parents are being cheap.
Or prospective billionaires who want to know whether that's immoral.
Of
Our
course.
little Google session proves, money is at the core of so many moral issues, and we'll be delving into 2 more of those today.
We'll be hearing from a reader wondering whether they should accept a life-changing sum of money from a relative they view as unethical, and another who's found herself in a tricky situation after a one-night stand.
Our guest today on Moral Money is our associate editor, Camilla Tominey. She covers 2 topics of great importance to Telegraph readers, politics and the royal family. You've probably seen her on the Telly too. She appears regularly on Politics Live, Question Time, Radio 4, Sky News and ITV. And her political analysis is so astute, it's earned her the nickname Mystic Millie among some of our political team. So we're hoping she can see into your futures too and give you some excellent moral money advice. Camilla, welcome to the show.
What an introduction. Thank you.
Hopefully the nickname isn't news to you.
Yeah, that's a Chris Hope Chopper nickname, by the way. So we can make our own judgments on that, as is appropriate.
So, Camilla, I mean, a lot of the questions we get sent relate to children and money. And
Yes.
you have 3 children.
I do. I have an 11-year-old, a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old at home. Quite
Wow,
a handful.
busy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, expensive as well.
Well, yeah, I'm sure money, you must have a lot to decide when
We
it
have a lot
comes
to
money.
decide. So at the moment, we're having this dilemma over what I should give them for their pocket money. And the middle one, a boy, wants a laptop for Christmas, which, as you both know, is not a cheap thing
No.
to
No.
want. And of course, they want the laptop with the piece of fruit on it, which is even more expensive, even though I've said any laptop will frankly do. You're only 9 years old.
Yeah.
So there's been talk about emptying dishwashers and going out and helping in the garden and all the rest of it. And for some reason, an arbitrary sum of £15 a week has been mentioned. I said, that's far too much money.
It does seem like quite a lot.
Well, then I looked it up and I spoke to some friends, and actually pocket money's gone up a lot since my day, back as a child of the 80s, when we'd be lucky to get a quid or 2.
Yeah.
So it is a bit of a difficult one. And at the end of the day, the laptop will be useful for his homework and other things moving forward. So it's not the most frivolous thing to ask for as a 9-year-old.
So like every good businessman, he's saying, well, I can claim some of that on business expenses.
Well,
because
almost, yeah.
I'll be using it.
Indeed,
Whatever
on
happened to
parental homework expenses.
Children's Britannica.
Well, this is the
Does
other
that
thing,
not exist
right?
anymore?
No, it's all about Google. But then as journalists, I think we all have to admit that that is the case for us as well. I don't think I've looked in a Britannica for a long time.
no.
Anyone else here? No.
It's news to me what that even is.
I used to have a CD-ROM in Carter 95.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that
Oh,
was
yeah,
like
yeah.
Oh, my God. Gold dust.
technology. Yeah, it really was.
I do remember that. Anyway, we've got 2 great moral money dilemmas to discuss with you today, Camilla.
Brilliant.
We'll get onto one-night stands later.
Ooh,
but
exciting,
first,
exciting.
But first we have an inheritance dilemma. with a kind of ethical twist. So I'll read this out. A reader writes, "My great uncle has recently died, and I've discovered he left me a significant sum in his will. He was well off, and I am among many beneficiaries. My difficulty with this is that his highly successful career was made in an industry that I find morally repugnant. I try to live my life ethically and responsibly. Like many, I choose not to invest in or support businesses that cause harm to individuals, society, or the environment. We had many disagreements over this subject, and I've refused gifts from him in the past. I hope that he meant a kindness in leaving me this money, but I must admit to an occasional suspicion that he made the bequest with the intention of placing me in this difficult position. I have considered giving the bequest to charity, but I'm in need of money at the moment, and this could be a lifeline. I could give half to charity and keep half, but I feel that if I'm effectively abandoning my principles, I may as well keep it all. Am I selling out, and what should I do?"
It's interesting that this has been written in this regard, because towards the end of the email, you get the impression that the writer has already decided they are selling out. And what they want us to do is make them feel better about this decision. So the letter starts with a sort of, "I'm not under any circumstances taking this money." And then the classic line is, "I have considered giving it to charity, but I'm in need of the money at the moment," right? So this is the politics of Marx. And by that, I mean Groucho. Here are my principles. And if you don't like them, I have others. And it sounds to me as if this person is following the money. Show me the money. It's a bit Jerry Maguire, this moment. Surely there can be a compromise here in giving some of the money to charity to prop up her own principled stance, or his or her. We don't know whether it's a man or a woman. And then keeping some and making sure that it is spent in a responsible manner. Wouldn't that be the ideal solution here?
And we presume that this reader will spend it in a responsible manner if, as they say, that they do make ethical and responsible decisions with their money.
Unless this is just the slippery slope, and once she's accepted this unethical cash, she just thinks blow it all on whatever.
I'd like to know what the business is that they find morally repugnant. Has this wealthy uncle been running a brothel?
Yeah.
Has the wealthy uncle been... I don't know, is this something to do with Extinction Rebellion and climate change, and what he's done has been polluting the environment? It's really hard to make the moral judgment because we don't quite know what the business has been found guilty of doing.
And everyone will have their own lines as well. I think probably everyone would draw the line somewhere. Some people might be, right at the end, oh, well, he wasn't actually leading an army of child soldiers, so... Well,
that's the thing. Is this child soldiers, or is this something that some people might find a bit nuanced?
Exactly.
Is this person a vegan and the uncle runs an abattoir? That would be a stark choice, wouldn't it? But if the uncle is running something that most ordinary people wouldn't find extreme, this is the sort of RSC versus BP argument, right? The idea that the RSC turns down BP's funding because they've gone all Greta Thunberg and they've decided it's unethical, even though the funding is by a company that, yes, may pollute the world, but is also investing resources into trying to make the world a better place, they say, and equally providing subsidised tickets for young people. What sort of ethical dilemma is this person in? It's really hard to tell without knowing what business the uncle was involved in.
It is tricky, though, and you could argue that the money's already been made. If she doesn't use it for good or for herself, it doesn't matter. She's not fixing the world by doing that.
Yes.
And it is an interesting question that comes up in the news, because we had the Sacklers who've made a lot of money and agreed to pay a lot in fines for their contribution to the opioid crisis, but they fund basically all of the arts. So should we reject? I think, and some art centres have started rejecting that funding, but they've given billions and billions. So there comes with the question: should that money be put to good use for the public purse? Or should we just say, no, we don't want any part in touching that dirty cash?
It's interesting because there's a correlation, isn't there, between just wealth and a loss of moral argument generally, isn't there? Bosses bad, workers good, wealth and capitalism bad, socialism and freedom for the people to have a greater meritocracy good. And of course, that's really a one-dimensional approach here. We all know of people who are billionaires and awful, but also billionaires who are corporately extremely responsible. I would suggest that actually things have come on enormously, despite the left-wing narrative that it's all doom and gloom and the poverty gap has got wider. Actually, if you compare how businesses behave to the 1980s, I mean, they're falling over each other to prove their corporate responsibility, aren't they? I mean, I don't think it's this greed is good narrative as much as it was 20, 30 years ago.
Sure.
Absolutely. And I think you hit on an interesting point with BP, where we write a lot on the Money Desk about how you can invest ethically, and there's a lot of different approaches, and some people would say, I'm not going to invest at all in BP because they produce fossil fuels and, that's polluting the planet. But as you quite rightly point out, BP and companies like them are also investing a lot in renewable energy, and kind of one person's ethics is unlike another's, and the line will be different for you. And I think, so when it comes to money, that makes it really hard, because what I will view as ethical and what I will want to do with my money will be slightly different to what someone else wants to do. But we do also have to trade money between each other, and it creates quite a difficult situation that this reader has got themselves into.
But interestingly, to bring us full circle, as we started this conversation talking about having kids and my kids, Ian Birrell, the journalist, did a really moving piece where he wrote about having a disabled daughter and how that had really refocused everything he'd done in his life. And he quoted in that piece Edwina Currie saying that, everyone's a libertarian until they have children. It doesn't say in here, this reader, about the need for money or what that's all about, but you do find principles evaporate if she had some children, she or he had some children at home, and they might be in need of money. This inheritance issue, and it, let's face it, it makes or breaks families, right? Inheritance is often about this idea of carrying on a legacy, and it's my right because it's our family money to have and give on to the next generation. This is where we see an evaporation of principles, because it's born out of need, but also entitlement. In this case, it's weird, isn't it? Because she wasn't really expecting anything from the great uncle. It's not like a parental legacy.
Sure.
But
this
the
is like a nice
bottom line
bonus. I guess that changes things a little.
But then this comes back to the thing, and this is about money. Money does corrupt people when it comes to their principles. This is why we see people who campaign against selective schooling sending their children to private schools.
Right.
And this is where we have somebody here who has ethics and morals, but at the same time is saying, look, I need the cash.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what this comes down to, which is probably then the counter-argument to that is, this is why capitalism is wrong. But it's not capitalism, isn't it? It's human greed and need for survival financially.
There's always a difference between talking about the theory of what you would do and actually what you do when someone gives you a big fat check, isn't there?
Exactly. And also, I suppose it's that other argument about how people, we see, when we see celebrities advertising things like betting companies. Yeah. And it's wrong, really. Yeah. They shouldn't be doing it, especially if they're, I think, in sport or whatever. But yet, at the end of the day, it all boils down to that big fat check. And it's often the richest people that are offered more money, aren't they? They don't even need it.
Absolutely.
Because people find it very difficult. If I handed you 100 quid and said, no, just take it, no questions asked, it's difficult to resist that, even though you don't know whether I've just robbed it off an OAP in the street.
Is that what's about to happen? Because that would be great.
I don't take on OAPs in any capacity, let alone in the street.
Okay, let's just come up with an answer then, Camilla. If this happened to you, would you take the cash?
I think I'd take the cash, and if I felt like I needed to mitigate against my own sense of guilt, I would give a proportion of it to a charity.
Well, I think we're just about agreed on that one. But we have another Reader's Moral Money dilemma coming up after this, and it involves one-night stands and expensive watches.
Hello, podcast listeners. My name's Danny Boyle, and I'm the Telegraph's commuter editions editor, which means it's my job to provide you with great journalism that makes your journey to and from work as enjoyable as possible. I can't prevent train delays or guarantee you won't get caught in the rain, but I can make sure you're up to date with the best of the Telegraph every morning and evening. And I just wanted to let you know about one of the ways you can get all that in audio form. All you need to do is join my WhatsApp group. Every weekday, my colleague Chris Price and I bring you short audio briefings directly to your smartphone at 8 in the morning and 5:30 in the afternoon. And the best bit, it's completely free to sign up and easy. Just click on the link in the show notes for this episode. I look forward to having you as a group member soon.
Welcome back to Moral Money, where we are here with Camilla Tominey. And now to the juicy stuff. I've got a letter here from a reader. I'm going to read it out to you now. I had a brief fling with a man I met at a corporate event. It was a perfectly amicable parting in which we swapped numbers and agreed to meet again. After he'd gone, I saw he'd left his watch on my bedside table. A Rolex. I sent him a text after a few days of radio silence and heard nothing back. I tried again a few weeks later and once more after that. It's now been 6 months since we last spoke. I've been advised by my friends that the watch is not a fake and that it could be worth well over £5,000. I could text again, threatening to sell it, and I could probably track him down through social media or find his office and take it to him in person. But on the other hand, why should I? He seems wealthy enough, and after all, he's made no effort to reply to me or collect it. I'm tempted to sell it and spend the money on myself. Is that morally wrong? Camilla, your thoughts?
Well, I don't think it's morally wrong, but I think I've got an even better solution for this reader.
Go on.
Oh, do
And
tell.
that is that she holds on to the watch. And she holds on to the watch for two reasons. First of all, because she's clearly in a moral dilemma about whether she's in a position currently to sell it. But secondly, and more importantly, the longer you hold on to a Rolex, the more it is going to be worth, right? So she should see this as an investment. Now, it seems to me that she has done her due diligence. In a journalistic sense, we're obviously asked to check and check again. And she's gone back to this one night stand and told him repeatedly that she has got this watch and he's ghosted her, for want of a better expression.
Right.
So I think she has done her due diligence here. Another phone call in my mind would be a phone call too many. And there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, she's already made contact and made it clear he's left this possession behind, point one. Point two, that paragraph where she says, I could phone him and threaten to sell it and then track him down on social media or find his office. This is getting into bunny boiler
bit creepy.
territory. Do not chase after this chap. You're going to then make a reputation for yourself, being someone who's stalking a guy that you met at this corporate event. I just think, look, the silence is golden. Leave it, store the Rolex somewhere very, very carefully, and then wait for the time to come for it to go up in value.
We've even got some investment advice for our reader there.
Brilliant. And I tell you what this is based on. Can I just share this with you? So my brother, who's quite into watches, not into Rolexes, he's not, but he knows a bit about watches.
Right.
He's giving me some examples here because I did ask him that sports watches are going off the charts, he says, if this reader is listening.
Oh.
Somebody he knows bought a 50th anniversary Sea Dweller for 11.5k and it's going up. The Zenith Rolex Daytona 1997 is the first automatic movement in a Rolex. You could used to be able to get for 16 grand. I can't find it anywhere for less than 22k and it will only go up. So at the moment, the watch market is thriving, and particularly Rolex.
You heard it here first.
So that's my advice.
We can exclusively reveal on the Moral Money podcast. Watches,
and of
buy.
course, the dilemma is, what if he comes along in 5 years' time when this watch is worth double? But I think she claims to have never seen him in her life, doesn't she?
Yeah, or what watch? There was no
Sorry?
watch. Although he then turned to the text, wouldn't he? But then, by then, I think you could say, well, you left it 5 years. I've sold it.
I think if you see him coming, you just turn around and run the other direction.
Yeah. Did it say in here? Oh, yeah, it's at her bedside table. So he does know where she lives.
Yes, so he could come and get it.
Should she move house and change her mobile? Also, meeting men at corporate events. I'm making no moral judgments, by the way, on one night stands. I'd like to say that here on air and on the record. Is this man avoiding any contact with this woman because he's married? Is this what's implicit in this email?
That is a point that a lot of readers suggested could be going on here when this column was published on the Telegraph website.
What are readers saying?
Lots of readers were making exactly that point, that he might be feeling a little bit guilty. A lot of them say put it in a safe and keep hold of it for a period of time, although the lengths of times that people are suggesting, very different.
Ooh.
Some people are saying 18 months.
Yes.
Some people are saying like you, maybe a few years. One person says 10 years. Leave it for 10 years and then you can sell it.
Is that my brother? Who was written into the Telegraph?
Of course, not selling it and keeping it would get around the legal issue, which is it hers to sell?
Now, hang on a minute. Isn't this a myth? That whole finders keepers theory.
Well, we did put this to a lawyer when it was published on the Telegraph website.
This is a very efficient podcast.
We take this very seriously.
Yes, clearly.
The lawyer said that there is no time period beyond which you would be entitled to sell someone else's belongings. Right. So you're never in the clear. 18 months, 10 years, doesn't matter. So if the woman was to sell the watch, she runs the risk of prosecution for theft under any time. She could maybe mitigate that by showing that she had really made an effort to contact him, and the lawyers suggest sending by recorded delivery a letter, not just a text. But, you know, if we come back to what you said,
annoying.
well, lawyers will be lawyers.
Lawyers will be. Oh, come on.
Imagine receiving that in the post. Sorry, you've got to sign for something.
Yes.
What is it? Oh, a letter from my one night stand.
Yes, Mrs. Rolex at the door of the double-fronted Edwardian property. What's all this about, Mr. Corporate Events Man? There seems to be a woman here with a piece of your jewellery. I don't think that would go down very well.
Not with the wife, definitely.
No, of course not. Of course not. I mean, one person, to go on the boring money side, one person did say, oh, well, it would be quite difficult to sell without paperwork. Did your brother have anything to say about that?
He doesn't. Just consult the oracle again. He doesn't. But of course, yes, when you see watches advertised online, boxes, paperwork and receipts are all important.
Yeah.
Having said that, the reason why Rolex is because they're really easy to identify against forgeries because of all of the stamps and stuff. And because of that iconic crown logo, paperwork or not, if it's a Rolex, it's a Rolex, right?
You'd be able to find someone to buy it. I mean, we've discussed a lot the money side of this, you know, how much money they can make. We haven't discussed very much the moral side of it. Does the fact that this could be a good investment and she could make money from it really change how she should feel about it morally?
Well, I think she should feel a bit uncomfortable about it morally, but not too uncomfortable because she has made efforts to contact him. And I think, I don't know whether she should be judging the morality of her having had a one-night stand with a man at a corporate event wearing a Rolex who doesn't seem to care whether he's left it behind.
Yeah.
Do we need to ask ourselves moral questions about this reader's choice of one-night stand? Because somebody who's just throwing Rolexes around perhaps might need to
Maybe that's
take
his
account
calling
of themselves.
card.
Yeah.
Oh, do you think he leaves
Just like
Rolexes?
flash his cash, leave his Rolexes
This
around.
is like a
memento.
It's an appalling sort of alternative to a man in a bar putting down his car keys with the Porsche logo, isn't it? It's just a bit grotesque. You know, you can imagine this man at the bar at the corporate event sort of getting his... I must just check the time in front of this poor woman as she is seduced by him over a couple of gin and tonics.
Of course. Well, I mean, I agree. I think she's taken all steps to contact him. If he doesn't get back to her.
And
it's
also,
yours.
what was that she said about, hang on, this is important. We swapped numbers and agreed to meet again. And then obviously he was not being honest in that.
He's either changed his mind or maybe the number is not even real.
Well, maybe, well, if the number isn't even real, okay, that is a good point, right? What if she's called a number that isn't even real because he's given her a fake number? Then I'm sorry, she keeps that watch.
Yeah.
That's your fault. If you're uncontactable, because you have lied, then I think morally she takes the high ground.
Yeah,
I think it's quite.
I think you're right, and it's quite. It reflects quite well on her that she's even considering tracking him down via social media. She doesn't need to do that.
No, she could have just run
away.
away.
Going to his office. That's above and beyond.
They use a cliche here in saying that time is going to be a great healer on her conscience.
Oh, Camilla.
The longer she keeps the watch, right, the better she's going to feel about selling it. And the more she's going to make. It's an all-win situation.
Win-win.
Well, I think we've solved it.
We've solved. That's the end of that.
Okay, moral dilemma over.
We'll have to have you on every week.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I probably sound like I'm morally corrupted and corruptible, which is probably the case. But when it comes to Rolexes and one-night stands and strange men at corporate events, I think we've got this tied up.
Well, thank you, Camilla Tominey, Associate Editor for The Telegraph. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's been an absolute blast.
Thank you so much for listening, and to our wonderful producer, Theodora Loulis.
As ever, do get in touch with your own moral money conundrums, or maybe even tales of your one-night stands. You can email us at moralmoney@telegraph.co.uk, or leave us a voicemail at 07867 162 170. That number will also be in the show notes to this episode.
And we've only got one more episode left in Series 1, so do get in touch, because this time it really is your last chance to hear your voice on the show. And you'll also hear the legendary Matt, our brilliant front page cartoonist. As always, he'll be sinking his teeth into 2 moral money issues.
Yep, do subscribe, tell all your friends, share the podcast, and shower us with your love and your praise. And if you go to telegraph.co.uk/audio, you can get 30 days free access to everything on The Telegraph.
See you next week.